Welcome to Midnight Mirage Stories, where story feels real but not. The sky over San Aurelio had turned red the night everything changed. Not the gentle red of sunset, not the soft blush of dusk, but a violent, bleeding crimson that spread like a wound across the horizon. Sirens screamed. Helicopters sliced the air. Somewhere in the chaos, glass shattered and the city held its breath. Aria Vale ran. Her boots pounded against wet pavement as rain began to fall in heavy, punishing sheets. She clutched the small metal drive in her hand so tightly the edges cut into her skin. Behind her, headlights flared to life. They had found her. She darted into an alley, vaulted over a dumpster, and scaled a rusted fire escape with the speed of someone who had trained for moments like this her entire life. Because she had. Aria wasn't just a courier. She wasn't just a thief. She was the last operative of Project Horizon. And tonight she was the only thing standing between a corrupt empire and total control. Chapter 1. The Girl Who Survived. 5 years earlier, Aria Vale had died. At least, that's what the world believed. The explosion that destroyed the Horizon Research Facility in the mountains was ruled an industrial accident. 37 scientists, 12 security personnel, 1 classified experimental unit. All gone. But Aria had crawled from the wreckage with smoke in her lungs and fire in her eyes. She had been the experiment. Genetic augmentation. Enhanced reflexes. Neural acceleration. A living weapon designed for counterintelligence and rapid response operations. She was 17 at the time. Young enough to be shaped, old enough to understand she was being used. The corporation behind Horizon, Virex Industries, called it patriotism. Aria called it slavery. She spent 5 years disappearing. And then she met him. Chapter 2. The Man Who Stayed. Luca Serrano wasn't supposed to matter. He owned a small auto repair garage near the docks. He had oil-stained hands, warm brown eyes, and a smile that didn't belong in a city built on secrets. Aria first saw him when she was scouting a shipment container rumored to hold Virex tech. She had slipped into the docks at night, silent as a shadow, only to find herself cornered by a security patrol she hadn't accounted for. She could have handled them. But then she heard his voice. "Hey! You can't park that truck there! You're blocking my lift!" It was ridiculous. Reckless. Unnecessary. But Luca's interruption distracted the guards long enough for Aria to vanish. Later, when she returned to thank, or threaten, him for interfering, she found him under the hood of a battered Mustang. "You again," he said without looking up. "You could have gotten killed," she replied. He shrugged. "You looked like you needed a distraction." She studied him, calculating risk. Variables. Probabilities. He met her gaze calmly. Not afraid. Not suspicious. Just curious. It unsettled her more than a gun ever could. Chapter 3. Lines in the Sand. Their relationship didn't begin with romance. It began with proximity. Aria needed a cover identity. Luca needed help restoring a rare engine model he couldn't quite figure out. She had learned mechanical engineering at 14. She fixed the problem in 20 minutes. He offered her coffee. She refused. He offered again the next day. She accepted. Slowly, she began spending more time at the garage. She told herself it was strategic positioning. Close to the docks, useful for surveillance. But sometimes she stayed even when there was no mission. Sometimes she stayed just to watch him laugh. "You don't trust anyone," Luca said one evening as they sat on the garage roof watching ships move across the dark water. "I trust patterns," she replied. "I'm not a pattern." "No," she admitted quietly. "You're not." That frightened her more than Virex ever had. Chapter 4. The Return of Ghosts. The night Virex resurfaced, the air smelled like metal and rain. Aria felt it before she saw it, a convoy of black SUVs moving through the industrial district. The insignia was subtle, but unmistakable, a silver horizon line bisected by a rising sun. Project Horizon had not died in the mountains. It had evolved. She broke into a Virex data hub 3 nights later and stole the drive now cutting into her palm. Inside it was proof Virex had perfected Phase 2. And they had a new operative. Codename, Ares. Stronger. Faster. More obedient. Aria didn't realize Ares was tracking her until it was too late. Chapter 5: The Hunter. Ares moved like silence given shape. He intercepted her in the alley that would later burn red in her memory. 6'3". Broad-shouldered. Eyes unnaturally steady. Aria Vale, he said evenly. You survived. So did you, she replied, noticing the faint surgical scars along his jawline. He had once been a Horizon recruit too. I am what you were meant to become. I became something better. They collided. The fight shattered brick and steel. Aria moved with lightning precision, but Ares matched her strike for strike. When she vaulted off a wall to deliver a spinning kick, he caught her midair and slammed her into the pavement. Pain flared white. She rolled, grabbed a discarded metal rod, and struck his knee joint. He faltered, just enough. Aria fled. But she knew something with chilling clarity. Virex had built a monster. And they were sending him for her. Chapter 6: Confession Under Fire. Luca was closing the garage when Aria burst through the door, bleeding. He didn't ask questions. He locked the door, pulled down the shutters, and guided her to the back room. You're shaking, he murmured. I miscalculated. Who's after you? She hesitated. Then she told him everything. The experiments. The explosion. The enhancements. Ares. When she finished, she expected him to recoil. Instead, he cupped her face gently. You're not a weapon, he said firmly. You're a person. You don't understand. They won't stop. Then we won't run. The word we lodged in her chest like something fragile and luminous. She had fought alone for so long. She didn't know how to fight with someone beside her. But she wanted to learn. Chapter 7: Siege. Virex moved faster than anticipated. At dawn, drones circled the docks. By noon, the garage was surrounded. Aria spotted the thermal signatures through a cracked window. They found us. Luca checked the exits. Options? Minimal. She handed him a pistol. His hand trembled slightly, but his voice didn't. Show me. She positioned him behind reinforced shelving, explaining angles and blind spots. Her voice was calm. Tactical. But inside, fear raged. If Luca died because of her. The front door exploded inward. Smoke grenades rolled across the floor. Figures in tactical armor advanced. Aria moved first. She disarmed one attacker with a fluid twist, used his momentum to throw him into another, fired twice with lethal accuracy. Luca covered her flank, clumsy but determined. They retreated through a rear exit as flames engulfed the garage. Aria watched the place that had become her sanctuary collapse into fire. I'm sorry, she whispered. Luca squeezed her hand. It's just a building. But she knew it wasn't. Chapter 8: The Safe House. Aria had one last contingency, a safe house in the hills overlooking San Aurelio. From there, they decrypted the stolen drive. What they found turned the situation from dangerous to catastrophic. Virex wasn't just rebuilding Horizon. They were preparing to deploy neuro-compliance chips in high-ranking political and military leaders. Control at the highest levels. Ares wasn't just a hunter. He was the prototype enforcer for a new world order. We can't just run, Luca said. No. Aria agreed. We end it. He studied her. This will cost you. It already has. He stepped closer, brushing rain-damp hair from her face. If we survive this, he said softly, I'm taking you somewhere quiet. No guns. No corporations. Just sun and open roads. She allowed herself a rare smile. Deal. Then the power cut out. Ares had found them. Chapter 9: Breaking the Monster. The safe house walls shook under heavy impact. Ares entered through the front like a force of nature. "You are destabilizing necessary progress," he stated as if reciting data. Aria faced him alone. "Progress built on control isn't progress." They fought the rooms splintering into debris. Mid-battle, Aria noticed something different: hesitation. Micro-delays in Ares' response time. The chip. She remembered the schematics. "Ares!" she shouted between strikes. "What was your name before?" He faltered. Names weren't part of his programming. But something flickered in his eyes. She pressed harder, not physically, but verbally. "They took your choice. Just like mine." He staggered. Luca, following Aria's earlier instructions, triggered an EMP device rigged from salvaged parts. The pulse detonated in a burst of blue light. Ares collapsed. Smoke curled from behind his ear where the compliance implant had fused to bone. He wasn't dead. He was free. Chapter 10: Crimson Horizon. With Ares temporarily offline, Aria and Luca made their final move. They infiltrated Virex headquarters under cover of the citywide power disruption caused by the EMP surge. The top floor gleamed with sterile arrogance. Virex CEO Damian Cross waited calmly behind reinforced glass. "You could have led a revolution," he said as Aria burst in. "Instead you chose sentiment. You mistake love for weakness," she replied. He activated the building lockdown. Security units advanced. Aria moved like the storm she had once survived. She dismantled defenses, shattered glass, and forced her way to Cross. "You built me," she said, pressing a blade to his throat. "But you never owned me." Behind her, Luca uploaded the stolen data to every major news network and intelligence agency in the world. Within minutes, Virex's crimes were public. Sirens approached from every direction. Cross's empire collapsed in real time. Aria stepped back. She could have killed him. Instead, she chose something stronger: justice. After the fire, months later, the sky over San Aurelio was blue. Ares, whose real name was Matteo, was undergoing rehabilitation, slowly rediscovering fragments of himself. Virex was dismantled under international scrutiny. And Aria stood beside Luca on an open highway stretching toward the horizon. No weapons.no surveillance. Just wind. "You still don't trust easily," Luca teased. "I trust you," she replied. He smiled. The road ahead was uncertain. Dangerous, even. But for the first time in her life, Aria Vale wasn't running from her past. She was driving toward her future. And beside her was the one person who had proven that even in a world built on control and violence, love was the most powerful rebellion of all. Thank you for watching Crimson Horizon. Aria and Luca survived the fire, but the war was only just beginning. What rose from the ashes is darker, stronger, and more dangerous than anything they've faced before. Join us next Thursday for Crimson Horizon Part 2, Ashes of Control, where love becomes a weapon, trust is tested, and the horizon burns again. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share so you don't miss the next chapter.